Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Seriously Disturbed. I'm Savannah,
And I'm Lauren.
and this week I have a case for you. We've been keeping it secret from each other, so
I'm
I guess
excited.
I'll just spit it out now. I am doing the Devil Made Me Do It case. So
Yes.
we're getting a little paranormal with a little true crime, and I think this is the perfect crossover case. So yeah, Lauren gave me like five cases to pick from that she knew because she's the paranormal queen, and I picked this one.
Okay. Well, I'm super excited to hear you tell it.
Yeah, the story is it's seriously like one of the most interesting true crime stories ever. I don't know how I didn't really know about it, but now
Yeah,
I
I
do.
don't I don't really know a lot of details about it, so
Okay, well
let's
here
do
we go.
it.
So we'll start with our sources. You can skip through, skip. Um, Arnie Johnson killed his landlord, then said the devil made him do it by Marco Margatoff on allthat'sinteresting.com, our favorite site ever.
It is.
Um, and then the true story behind the Netflix documentary The Devil on Trial by Laura Zamosa on time.com. And finally, The Devil on Trial on Netflix. And I know it was crazy enough. Whenever I was like looking up which cases to do, this documentary had just come out like the day before.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I was like, I'm doing this one. Um, yeah, so it
Okay.
just came out on Netflix. So everyone, it was really good. So you need to go watch it after.
I know, once you said Netflix, I was like, I haven't heard of that one.
No,
So,
it's brand new.
I'm going to have to
So
listen to it or watch
yeah, I
it.
made all the girls that came in town this weekend watch it with me, so we could, it looked like a good documentary, and I was doing research, so
Yeah.
double.
That's how I felt last story with Ghost Adventures. I was like,
Yeah,
I
like,
feel like I'm just watching a show, but it was research.
yeah, no, it was fun, but the first half I was kind of drinking, so I don't know if those notes are very good. So don't fact check me on the first half of the story. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. In Brookfield, Connecticut, on the night of February 16th, 1989, 19-year-old Arnie Johnson killed his landlord, Alan Bono, by stabbing him to death with a pocket knife after a heated argument. So we're starting right off the bat with what happened, just because the whole interesting part of the story is everything that leads up to it.
Okay.
So,
Pocket knife.
what
That's
I know,
it seems extra brutal for some reason. I don't know why, but
because I feel like you have to try extra hard and you have to be super
yeah.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not that long. I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess it would depend on the knife, but I'm thinking like this little one I have in my car for
No,
safety.
that's
I'm like,
exactly what I'm picturing, and I didn't even think about it till you said that. But you're right. That's extra brutal.
yeah, weird.
Um, so what seemed like an open and shut case turned out to be one of the most controversial cases in American history. And Arnie Johnson's plea was the not guilty by reason of demonic possession. So that's the whole tie-in of paranormal activity and true crime.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, you said you want a paranormal. We're getting paranormal. Um, this is also the case that inspired the Conjuring movies. So yeah, I think you knew that. That was the fact you brought me. But
Yeah. That's like all
yeah,
I really know about it.
yeah. Which I mean, now I want to go back and watch the movie because knowing everything I know now, it's like I don't know. It's just jarring.
Which movie was it? Was it the second one?
I can't remember which one, but you'll know once we go through this story because I can picture exactly what movie it is.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the second one.
Probably. I've seen them all, I'm pretty sure, but this is the one that I always remember the most. So I don't know if that helps. I think it's the best one.
Yes, that helps us know which one it is.
Well, if I like it, it's probably the best. You know what I mean? Okay. So, to really understand this case, you need to understand everyone who's involved and how they are connected. So, we'll just start off like kind of with all the characters involved and then get into the meat of the story.
Okay.
So, starting out with the man himself, Arnie Johnson, Arnie, like I said, was a 19-year-old boy at the time. I say boy, I guess man, at the time of the crime, and he was engaged to a woman named Debbie Grotzel. Debbie Grotzel had three brothers named David, Alan, and Carl. Um, it's also going to get a little confusing because the victim's name is also Alan, but there's Alan Bono and then Alan the brother. So
Okay.
we
Okay.
don't talk about the brother much. So just if I'm talking about Alan, it's probably the victim.
Okay.
And David, the youngest brother, was 11 years old at the time that this story starts, and it really starts with him. So, in the summer of 1980, the Grotzel family moved into a new home. David, the 11-year-old boy, had a bad feeling when they moved in and soon began to complain of a man taunting him. He said that he saw a man with black eyes, a thin face, animal-like features, jagged teeth.
Oh.
I know. He said he was waking up in the night hysterically crying, and eventually things got worse, and he would start spitting, biting, kicking, and cursing at his family.
David Wood?
David, yeah.
Okay.
So at first they, in the documentary they were talking about, they just thought it was like behavioral issues, like he was just acting out maybe to get attention as the youngest sibling. But the family started becoming more and more concerned that his behavior wasn't just typical young boy issues, but perhaps it was something more sinister. So this is when the family decides, okay, I think this is an actual demonic possession.
Oh gosh, that
And
jumps.
yeah, like for hindsight, like the mother Judy is painted as a deeply religious woman. So if
Okay.
you really believe in God, then you believe
Believe
in the
in the
devil,
devil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how they ended up going with demonic possession as an option. So at that time, there was Ed and Lorraine Warren, and they were really well known at the time for I can't say it.
Amityville?
Amityville horror incident.
Not that way.
Amityville. Um,
Amityville.
so Ed and Lorraine at the time were really well known for Amityville horror incident. Guys, I can't say it. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Just Google it.
It gets worse every time you try.
Okay, I'm just gonna say they were really well known paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
So they end up hiring really well known paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So remember
Love them.
them. You'll probably remember them from the Conjuring.
And the Amityville.
Amityville. Yeah, good job. So side note for Carl, the oldest brother, in the documentary, he talks about how his mother wasn't actually a deeply religious person behind closed doors, but she portrayed herself that way when things started happening with David. And then they started going to church after this. So just like a side note for what's to go on later. Because
Yeah.
in the documentary, they're kind of cutting back and forth between all the family members because they're still alive today. Like this did not
shit.
happen that long ago. Yeah. So they're all talking, but separately. So you're getting everyone's different perspective.
That's
Okay.
interesting. I wonder if, like, seeing her son act like this made her think demonic and made her think, like, I got to get my family in church or
Yeah.
something.
No, it could go either way because yeah, that's the first thought I had was like, okay, I didn't believe in God, but now seeing this, like I actually do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So during this time, it was all hands on deck to try and help the little brother David. Arnie, who was engaged to Debbie, the sister, eventually ended up staying with the family to help out however he could. David continued to get worse and worse and was hissing, having seizures, speaking in strange voices, and he even started quoting the Bible.
Oh,
So
gosh.
I know. So it was starting to get worse, and like, so everyone was coming to the house, including Arnie.
I think it's like that he was quoting the Bible. I thought, like, I mean, all my demon knowledge is like based off like Conjuring movies and stuff like that, but I wouldn't think that a demon could quote the Bible because don't they use the Bible to like fight the demons off
No,
during
you're so right.
exorcisms?
You're right. I don't know if that was a drunk note or if that's a real note.
Yeah. Weird.
I don't know.
Okay.
I got it from somewhere.
Well, I don't think it's a drunk note because I think I have heard that before. Or I don't know, maybe I haven't. But anyway, weird.
Weird fact, could be wrong. Could be wrong. So the family eventually resorted to trying exorcisms to cure what they were convinced was the demonic possession. Now, in the documentary, they explain how it's not easy to get the Catholic Church to do an exorcism. There has to be good evidence that it's actually a demonic possession happening, and the family had to go through a lot of like paperwork. Like they're liable if something happens during the exorcism, or so
Oh,
they're not liable. They
the
warned the Grossel
priests and
family.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they told the family that it's possible that David wouldn't come out of it alive.
Oh shit.
Um, I know. So, but the family was like convinced that it was bad enough that they needed to do these exorcisms. So they ended up doing a series of 3 oversaw by priests. And during one of the last exorcisms, David allegedly predicted that Arnie would eventually commit the murder. No
Oh,
one's fact checked that, but it was in like all 3 of the sources.
weird. Okay.
Yeah. So, in a fit of emotion, Arnie pleaded that the demon leave David and take him on instead. He said he couldn't just sit around and watch this happen to Debbie's little brother. This is when they believe that the entity left David and took over Arnie. This led the family
Okay.
to believe that David was cured of the exorcism, not realizing that the spirit had just taken over another body because it was only 5 months later that Arnie committed the murder.
So I wonder, and you may get into it, but I wonder if like Arnie started acting weird after that.
They
Like,
never mentioned that.
yeah, like obviously besides the murder, but if David was like hissing and yelling and like his family knew something was wrong with them, you would think that
Yeah,
that would happen to Arnie.
I
I don't
know.
know.
So they we'll get into that at the end because there's kind of like 2 viewpoints on this.
Okay.
So it's time to meet our last character, Arnie Johnson's attorney, Martin Manila. Martin is the one who bravely enters the unheard plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession. And in the documentary, that he mentions that it had been used in Europe. So this wasn't like the first time that someone had pled guilty because of demonic possession, but they just had never done it in America.
Okay.
But spoiler alert, the judge ultimately rejects that plea, saying that it wouldn't be possible to prove, and the testimony on that matter would be unscientific, thus irrelevant.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. No, I mean, how do you prove it? So, and many other attorneys criticized Martin for taking this case, saying he just wanted it for the press, essentially. But when I watched the documentary, like when I was reading about it, I was like, oh, this guy just wanted to be on TV, whatever. But when I watched him, he seemed like honestly like sweet and kind of naive. Like he really believed that this is what happened and he was just taking it on because he felt bad like no one else would believe him. So
Yeah.
I honestly don't think he was doing it for the attention. Like he seemed like a really sweet
he
guy.
was
I don't know.
like he genuinely believed that the devil
Yes.
is the
Yes.
culprit in this
Yep.
situation. Okay.
So I'm not judging Martin. I like him.
Yeah.
But
Martin
um
Manila.
yeah. I like his name too.
I know.
Something I didn't know but learned while researching this case is that priests who perform this kind of thing are not allowed to talk about it. So even in this case, they couldn't admit their involvement in the exorcism, and they do not acknowledge anything like any exorcism, and they obviously wouldn't be able to speak to it in court. But they do acknowledge helping David during a difficult time. So
That's
it's
weird.
like, yeah,
I
it's
feel
like,
like
come on.
like if they signed all those papers and everything, like it legit happened. Like there should be records of that
I know.
to bring him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So I I don't know anything about exorcism paperwork, but apparently they couldn't talk about it. So,
Okay. I could see like why in court you can't really talk about it because again, it's like not
it's
everyone really
hearsay.
believes it. Yeah, it's hearsay. It's just kind of like what you believe. But okay.
I know. And a lot of people said, like, okay, well, if you can bring up God in a court of law, then why can't you bring up, like, you
Mm.
hold your hand on the Bible and stuff? Like,
Oh yeah.
I know.
That's a
So, I
good
mean, I
point.
can see why it's a little bit of a rocky area, but, like, yeah, we need to separate church and state then, for real. We're gonna,
Yeah. If we
yeah,
can't talk about like half an aspect of that religion, then don't bring any of it into it.
exactly. So, I see where they're coming from, and I don't know where I stand, honestly. Like, I always fall in the in between of, like, I don't know. I really don't
Yeah.
know. So, when the demonic plea didn't work, they were obviously devastated, and they really only had like 3 days to come up with something else. So they ended up working on a self-defense case instead of a demonic possession. So this kind of ruined their entire case because they came in basically saying, "Yeah, I did it, and but I only did it because
Mm-hmm.
a demon made me do it." And what sucks is Debbie and some other people signed statements saying they saw it happen, but they're saying they saw it happen because a demon possessed him.
Yeah. You would
So,
think that they would be like, okay, we won't take the devil or a demonic possession, but we'll take insanity or something that kind of still is along the same lines, like in my
yeah,
mind.
like I did it, but I wasn't in my right mind kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, and if you couldn't tell already, Debbie is like 100% behind him, and
Mm-hmm.
so is Debbie's family. Like they 100% believe that David was possessed, and the possession went into Arnie. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like standing behind him 100%. Um, but crazily enough, this actually kind of worked in their favor, because the court actually only found him guilty of first degree manslaughter.
Oh,
And he was just sentenced to 20 years in prison. But the judge believed he did do it and said, I have no choice but to give you the maximum I can give you, which is 10 to 20 years in maximum security
mm,
prison. So I think the jury was kind of feeling for him, but the judge wasn't going for it.
yeah. How long did he actually spend in jail?
That's my next sentence.
Oh,
You read my
I'm
mind.
sorry.
No, you're fine. So, interestingly enough, he actually only served 5 years in prison and was released
Damn.
on good behavior. I know, and it makes you feel like maybe this was like the truth. Like I don't know. Like he still to this day has never done anything else.
Yeah, but
Um,
to this day, has he gotten an exorcism? I don't
True.
know.
Maybe the demon left him because he killed and like completed the mission.
Maybe. I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, I'm playing both sides because you'll see here in a minute when we're gonna be judging him. We're
Okay, I'm about to say so far I'm leaning against that he did it in his own right mind. I'm being skeptical,
yeah,
but
no,
we'll see.
it's probably my tone because I'm just such a skeptic. But while in jail, he ended up marrying Debbie, and they stayed
Oh.
together until Debbie unfortunately passed away in 2021. So
Oh.
Debbie stood by his side through and through and claims that the worst thing her husband Arnie did was try and take on the beast that possessed her little brother. So she gonna stick beside him. Like she did not think he did that.
Yeah, that's some loyalty right there.
I
I
know.
mean, not even like sticking beside him, but like having the public probably like scrutinize her and Arnie and like their
Yeah,
entire family. Like that would be a lot to deal with and they stuck together. So,
I know. Yeah.
love.
I know. I'm like, there is a love story in this. Um, but during this time, journalists were given tapes of the exorcism. So since they couldn't use these things in court, they ended up kind of doing like a case to the public almost to prove that it was a demonic possession. So it was just like the sounds of the exorcism of David
Yeah.
and or like sounds of him like at night when he was like hissing and like doing all this stuff.
Ugh.
So
Gives me the
that's when like
heebie-jeebies.
I know. No, they kept playing it over and over again in the documentary. I'm like, I can't get that sound out of my head. But this is like what riled the public up, and like everyone was, fighting back and forth either way. Like they thought this was BS, or like they really believed in it. Like, I don't know, got the public going. So as for the other family members, the eldest brother Carl was furious about the whole thing. So Carl is the one who's like, Arnie committed murder. My brother was never possessed. That's
Oh
his view.
shit.
Yeah. So while Arnie was in jail, author Gerard Brittle published a book with the help of the Warrens. So the demonologists, and obviously the ones in The Conjuring. The title of the book, The Devil in Connecticut. Carl claims they took advantage of his brother's mental health for money. Carl was 15 at the time and never believed any of it. He thought his family was nuts and never trusted Ed or Lorraine. He felt they
Damn.
were leading David on and how he should act. So, like, for example, in front of the entire family, Ed and Lorraine would be like, okay, well, he may start hissing at you, he may start cursing at you.
Oh, to kind of like get the thoughts in David's head of like what he should do.
Yes. And he said, and then like David, like a couple days later, would start doing just that, like whatever Ed and Lorraine were saying that he may start doing.
Yeah.
And then Ed and Lorraine also started coming over every single night, and were bringing cameras, like with big bulbs and like recorders and everything. So it was kind of like turned into a big show. And it was
Yeah.
like, as soon as they came over, David knew to start acting out, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That makes
He,
sense. I've heard in another podcast, it's called And That's Why We Drink. It's my favorite podcast. But they M did an episode. M is one of the hosts, and they did an episode where they covered the Ed and Lorraine like conspiracy stuff, and basically how like a lot of the stuff that they did was like manufactured like that, and it was very not like hyped up, but you know what I mean, like
yeah.
faked
Oh,
or
no.
exaggerated and stuff like
I
that.
think I'm team, I don't like Ed and Lorraine. And that's
Yeah.
crazy because they're such lovable characters, like, before all this, that it's like, it breaks my heart. But yeah, I don't think I like them at all.
Yeah. I like them. I don't like I like them in the movies.
Yes, no, they're great characters, but the real
Yes.
them, well, I'll
Yeah.
get into some of the details, but it's like side eye.
Yeah, once you like learn how the real Ed and Lorraine went about everything, yeah, it's like
It's sad.
it is sad.
Okay, so yeah, he believes that none of this ever should have been connected to his brother, and he believes that his sister was having an affair with the victim. So yeah, he ended up suing them, the author of the book, for this reason. Like, he doesn't think any of this is legit, and they just took advantage of David, like, being vulnerable at that time, and like
Yeah.
probably seeking out attention, or having actual behavioral issues, and like kind of conjuring up this like narrative that wasn't real.
Yeah. The only thing that I could say to that, being devil's advocate, was how did Ed and Lorraine know to come to their house?
So I think it has to do with the mom, and I don't think I get into it, so I can just talk about it now. But the mom, I think, knew about Ed and Lorraine, and I
Oh.
think she might have been, because I don't know why she ended up reaching out, but I know why she kept going with it, because Ed and Lorraine told her that they were going to become millionaires from their story.
Oh God, here we go.
Yeah. So,
So I bet the mom reached out. Well, if this is all fake, I bet the mom reached out and was like, let's make this story happen, or like something like
well,
that.
no, I think the mom really believed that David was possessed at first. And I think she knew about them because they were well known. But then after the murder happened, I think is when like she was told, because Ed and Lorraine were in their lives like every single day at this time.
Okay.
So Ed and Lorraine were telling her like, you guys are gonna be millionaires from this case, and I think that's why she backed up Arnie in the murder trial.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I don't think she was like intentionally making stuff up, but I think she just really wanted to believe it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So the night of the murder, Judy, the mom, she comes running up and asks Carl and his dad, who are working outside together, to come with her. She's said that Debbie is hysterical and crying, and we need to go over to the kennels. I don't really know what the kennels are, but it's wherever they were. So
Okay.
they load up, they go over and see that Alan is laying on the ground, and they go over, roll him over, and see that there's 4 stab wounds. But he's still alive, but he couldn't talk. They're trying to tell him, hold on. And Carl is the one who finds him like this. So this is like the oldest son who's still skeptic to this day. And I mean, that's traumatizing to see someone like dying in your hands.
Yeah, especially if he's 15.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So very traumatic. And when he was talking about it on the Netflix documentary, it sounded like he hadn't really talked about it much before. I'm like, this man needs therapy.
Oh gosh.
But after that, whenever the trial was going on, the parents actually paid Carl to like skip school and go have fun for the day because they knew that he might try and like ruin the trial. So that's never really sat well with him. I mean, they didn't outright say that, but he's like, that's just kind of like the vibe he was given. Like he was not welcome at the trial, and they gave him money to go do whatever besides be there. Yeah.
Fishy.
So, this is like where he came up with the idea that his sister was having an affair with him, because witnesses who heard the crime claimed they heard the two arguing over Debbie. And that's exactly what the prosecutors say happened. It turns out Debbie even admits to the detective that she once did have a relationship with Alan Bono, but by that time it was over and in the past. So there
Okay.
was history with the landlord prior to her current relationship.
Gotcha.
So she had something with Alan, and then allegedly it ended, and she was now engaged to Arnie.
Okay.
So
That makes
the
sense.
fact that even her brother believes it kind of, and the detective says that she told him that, I think it probably has some truth to it. And it makes me wonder if it was actually a heated argument and if Debbie knew or if she believes Arnie. Like, I cannot tell. Like, I want to say she believes him, because why would you want to stay with someone that murdered someone? You know, eventually you'd like come to, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I believe Debbie and what she told the detective, and that that they did have a relationship in the past, but it was over.
Yeah.
And maybe the argument was just over rent.
I know.
Or like something like not Debbie, since
I
he was the
know.
landlord and everything. It could
Yeah.
have just been something unrelated.
Yeah. And I like put in my notes, like, Arnie's talking throughout this whole thing. Like, they're interviewing him. And I like find him to be trustworthy and likable. Like, that's
Yeah.
like how he comes across. But I know, like, lots of serial killers are like Ted Bundy. He was
true.
trustworthy and likable.
And
So
very deceptive.
yeah. But I don't know. It's just hard to watch after. You're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Debbie, like, after the thing, she ran up to him, gave him a kiss, and they had old videos of her too. And she, like, looks like she really believes he was innocent. So I don't know if she's in denial, she believes it. Either way, her, the mom, everybody stood behind him for the rest of their lives. Yeah. So I don't know what to think about Debbie, and she wasn't here to like talk about it now, but
Yeah.
there's old interviews, and I believe her. I'm not staying with the man that killed somebody. Like, eventually I would start thinking about it and be like, are you going to kill me? So,
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of am leaning towards that she believes him that it was the devil because she believes what her mom was telling her that David was possessed.
yes. Okay, now here's where we get into the mom part.
Okay.
So, this is what really throws Carl off. There's like a couple things, but so right after everything happened, the mom was flown off to Hollywood to like tell her story everywhere. And she
Oh
was having like
God.
fancy dinners and like doing all these things out in Hollywood. And this is when Ed and Lorraine told the family that they would be millionaires,
Mm-hmm.
because they were going to do the book and they were going to do like a different book this time. And when the family signed over the paperwork, and asked if they needed a lawyer, Ed and Lorraine were like, "Oh no, like that's taken care of. Like don't worry about it." And then the family ended up receiving around $4,000 at the end of the day, and Ed and Lorraine earned about $81,000 from the book. But
Damn.
still to this day, they're making money on it because of the Conjuring films. So
That
they're
is just
profiting
such
to this day.
that is such not a good look. That immediately
Yeah.
after the trial you go like I get if this was real and Ed and Lorraine, they were gonna make the Conjuring movies probably anyway. Whatever. They could have the money off that. But like immediately after is so suspicious to me that like it just makes it seem like she had it in her head the whole time I'm doing this for publicity.
100%. And at this point, David, like current day David, like a grown adult, fully believes that he was possessed. Um, but he is like, he hates the Warrens. He thinks they're con artists. They told him when he was younger that he was going to be a rich little boy.
Ugh.
But then they went on to profit off of him and his story and never
Yeah.
paid him. So yeah,
Slimy.
they hate the Warrens.
Yeah.
But it's kind of crazy to see the different perspectives because Carl was older, and I think I kind of side with Carl at this point after hearing everything. But David, I mean, I feel like it's too traumatic to probably for him to even think like, no, I wasn't possessed and I went through all of that and it wasn't real. Like I feel like that's
Yeah.
I don't know. That
He
would
was
be hard
also
to
so
accept.
young though, like 5 years old.
He
Wasn't
was
he five?
11. He was
Oh shit.
11.
Okay, never
So I
mind
mean,
then.
he was like I mean, he was old enough to like remember, but I mean, that's still young.
It is young, but it I was gonna like have a whole different thought when I thought that he was five for some reason. It's like 11 kind of
Yeah.
cancels out that thought in my head, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you're still easily coached or like thought to believe something. Like,
You are, but like at 11, I feel like you can kind of once you get older though, like you can kind of think back to it and realize like okay, this was put in my head to be a possession and like something like that. But like when you're five, I feel like it's a lot easier to like trick a 5 year old and make them believe
yes.
that this is actually true.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I would need a therapist to like, I would love to see someone like psychoanalyze all of
Yeah.
them
Yeah, that would be
because
really cool.
I don't know. But the director of the Netflix series, Chris Holt, he had a really good quote. I feel like sums up everything. He said, "There are people who tell lies, but I sat with David, Arnie, Alan, and Carl for hours on end, and their stories never changed. I think they were telling me the truth, but it's their own interpretations of the truth rather than it being a hard and fact. But they believe, and I believe, what they were saying is truthful." And I feel like that's like literally every single person talking, you're like, oh, I believe them. I trust them. Like,
Yeah.
so I think they all just like, I mean, that's their childhood. Like, it's hard.
But just like you said, like even though what they probably believe one thing, it could be a lie, but to them they believe it. So
It's the
they're not
truth.
coming across as lying. They're coming
Yeah.
across as truthful because that's their
They're,
truth.
it is. I know. And it's
So,
so crazy that everyone can have a different perspective of literally one event that's known. Like, it's not like a mystery what happened.
yeah.
Um,
Ugh, that's
But it was
crazy.
really sad because, like, basically at the end, they kind of show that the family's all broken now and, like, the brothers don't talk to each other. Um, and you can tell, like, David, like, feels like great shame and guilt about everything. Like he feels like
Aw.
he's responsible for the guy's murder. I know. I'm like, David, like
That's
you
like a
could tell.
lot. Yeah. That's a
I know
lot
he's
to
a
put on
grown
someone.
man and he still like looks like just broken up about it. Like he is the reason this all happened.
Yeah.
So that's what makes
Poor
me kind
guy.
of frustrated about like Arnie and everything because it's like if
Mm-hmm.
it is a lie, like you ruined not only one family's life, but a whole other family got broken up over it.
Yeah.
Um, then at the end of the documentary, Carl just drops this like crazy bomb at the end. Like I don't know if they just didn't know where to throw this in. Um, but when the parents passed away, him and his wife were going through their things and looking through journal entries that the mom had, which I don't know if that's an invasion of privacy, but I'd probably do it too. I don't
I
know.
would do it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
mom. Yeah. You can read mine, like it's fine.
Yeah.
But she writes in her journal like multiple times about giving the family medicine. And eventually they find out the medicine's called Sominex. And she was breaking it up and putting it in their food
Oh my
every night.
gosh.
It makes you sleepy. So it was it was supposed to be like a nighttime sleep aid. It says it's non-habit forming, completely safe. But she wouldn't have it. Like she always kept her food separate, or that's at least how he remembers it now. Um, and would like dose the whole family because like she said it was just like too much. Like the family was overwhelming to her, and he believes that she used it to control the family. So I think he's a little scorned. So take it with a grain of salt.
That's still weird for the mother to be like drugging their kids, though.
No, it's definitely very weird. And like the medicine now like isn't on the market because it caused mood swings, weight gain, hallucinations.
Yep.
And he believes that David probably suffered from the effects of the medicine because he was overweight. He was having these crazy mood swings. He was probably hallucinating.
Oh yeah.
And
Seeing
he was
like at
only
the very
11.
yeah, at the very beginning you said he was seeing like a man with a skinny face and sharp teeth or something. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
And they
that
had just moved too, so he's probably like, kind of scared in a new house or something, and I don't know. But to this day, David does not believe this happened. Like he does not. He says my mom would never do that to me, and he believes he's possessed by a demon. So, I, I really think I believe Carl.
so you believe that it was all a hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do too. But I do believe that both sides believe their truth.
Oh yeah. Like I don't think
Maybe not the
anyone.
mom. I think the mom was up to something.
I do too. I don't feel good about the mom and we don't get to see much from her besides like her interviews on TV when she's like which is also kind of like suspicious in hindsight.
Yeah.
And then like we see her or we hear her in those like demonic possession tapes. And it's just like I don't know, it's very jarring like
Yeah.
when you think about it like you're the adult in the situation and you're allowing like this big charade and show to come in. I don't know. Oh, and the one other like random thing I remembered that whenever like David would be possessed and like acting out and like cussing and like calling his mom things and like saying all this crazy stuff, when the dad would like come in and be like David, like stop, like you're gonna be in trouble, whatever. David would all of a sudden the demon would leave and like David
Oh
would
my
stop.
gosh.
Yeah. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I think the mom got wrapped. I don't know if she necessarily did this out of like evilness herself. I hope not. I hope she just got wrapped up in something that she couldn't stop
100%.
and was so convincing to the kids, or to at least David and Debbie. And so they believed that it really happened. But Carl saw the light and he's like, no, this is all bullshit. So I believe that they believe their truths, which kind of sounds like I don't know, kind of like a motivational thing. Believe your truth.
Yeah, we're a spiritual motivational podcast.
Yes, we are motivational Sundays. No, but I believe that they believe their truths, but the truth is Carl's truth.
I think
Or
so too.
Carl's that there was no devil and that Arnie
Hmm.
just went psycho for a minute and
Yeah. And I think the only person I think, well, obviously, would be the only person lying would be Arnie, the killer.
yeah. But
But
you said that he seemed so truthful.
I know. That's why I'm like, I don't know. Like maybe he did have like some sort of like psychotic break. I mean, he'd been in a crazy environment. I don't know.
Or like maybe he believed it because like the mom and Debbie and everyone were like, "Oh shit, the demon's in you now," and he like started playing that role or like and yeah, like had like a
And it
psychotic break or
became his
something.
truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't
This
know.
story is crazy.
It's crazy. Like I can't believe it's real and we like can talk to the people still.
I
Like,
know. I am so excited to watch the documentary about it.
yeah, you need to watch it. Yeah. Wait a couple weeks so like you forget everything I said wrong.
That noise probably sounded really weird on my laugh. I was drinking my tea. But no, I don't think you said anything wrong. Well, I don't know. Can't fact check you yet. But yeah, all of our listeners, wait until you completely forget about this story and then
Yeah,
go
then
watch.
go back and then you can watch it. You know, we boosted Netflix's sales by 28 viewers.
Yeah, we got 28 of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. And don't forget, every time you're out at the bar on Saturday night,
Mm-hmm.
promote our podcast and tell people
Yeah.
you don't need to get your Sunday scaries from being hungover.
Yeah. Get it from these
That was
girls.
such a lame promote.
No, guys, I've heard this really casual yet serious podcast called Seriously Disturbed. It's an in between of all your favorite podcasts.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, with that being
Well.
said, please follow us and rate us
And review.
and review and share
Oh,
on
so
your stories.
that's our challenge. Just share to one person or your story.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would love it.
We love it all, and we especially love recommendations, which you can submit to us.
On Seriously Disturbed Pod, right?
Yes,
On
on
Instagram.
Instagram. So
We've got one in the queue.
we do.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a chaotic ending, but thank you all for listening.
And we are so thankful for you.